now you might be listening to me. Right now you might be listening to me, but in the background there are so many thoughts running your mind. Agree with me? Although you are focused, most of your attention is over here in this session, but still you can't deny, you can't rule out the thoughts running in your background of mind. If you agree with me, just raise your hand, or you can say yes in the chat section. How many of you agree to this fact? There are n number of thoughts running in the background, but you are focused on one thing. And it is not only happening now, it happens almost all the time. Let's say you are sitting in your classroom, or you are attending an online session by your institute, or you might be taking any online coaching. It does happen whenever we are into a particular task, there are always some thoughts. Okay. Well, there is nothing unnatural about it. It's quite natural, and no wonder why scientists say that there are about 60 to 65,000 thoughts run through our mind, are surfacing through our mind on daily basis. Yes, it's a big number, right? 60 to 65,000 thoughts. Now, we shouldn't be bothered about it because it's a natural tendency of a mind, because mind is a storehouse of thoughts, emotions, and feelings. What we should be bothered about is the nature of these thoughts, nature of the emotion, nature of the feelings. If they are negative in nature, then yes, it's an alarming situation for all of us. And if they are positive, yes, definitely we are healthy, we are mentally healthy. So in structured pattern of mind, it's you who have control over your thought process. And in unstructured pattern of mind, your mind is in autopilot mode. What do I mean by autopilot mode? You don't go about filtering what you hear, what you read, what you consume through your mind. Many times we go about concluding about a particular person just by hearing it from third or fourth person. Does happen. Yes, it happens with all of us. It has happened with me. I'm sure it must have happened with some of you as well. At first instance, also we say that, okay, first impression is last impression, and we go about concluding so many things about an individual, about an object, about a product, or about a particular experience. So this is about unstructured pattern of mind. And in structured pattern of mind, you're always in learning mode. You have that open mindset and you're always in learning mode. Now, at this point of the time, I would like to ask a simple question to all of you. Well, as you all know, we had lockdown 1 last year and lockdown 2.0 experiencing this year. How many of you happen to spend your time, or how many of you spent your time in learning new things? It could be related to your domain of management studies, or it could be related to your personality enrichment. How many of you? Now, I'm not just talking about learning things online. It could be anything. It could be even learning musical instrument. How many of you happen to spend your time or happen to acquire some new set of skills? Okay, you can also specify them as to what you learned during these this period of lockdown in the chat section. Okay, thank you. Thank you for your responses. So yes, as all of you, as most of you said that you learned one or the other thing, that very much means that you have structured pattern of mind. That's dominant. But there is another section, there is another part of mind which is unstructured. And that's where, yeah, thank you for your responses. I see a lot of responses. Happy to know that you all spent your time very productively. Okay, quite happy to know and inspired to know that. All right. So unstructured pattern of mind. Here, you are always in an entertainment mode. But I'm not saying entertainment should not be there in life, but it is good to a certain limit. Many times we get into a vicious cycle of watching many videos. Although we start with one video saying that, okay, I think if this is useful for me, this is something necessary for me. And then there are YouTube recommendations, right, down there. So we get allured, we get attracted, and we click on them, and it goes on, video after video, video after video. And by the time you realize, it's already 30 to 40 minutes of watching videos, and you say, okay, this is something which I was not supposed to do, but you ended up doing that. And the worst part of it is we don't realize that we are in this vicious cycle. When somebody reminds us, or when it strikes us, that is when we realize that, oh, I shouldn't have spent my time like this. So this generally happens because of unstructured pattern of mind. So how do we move from this unstructured pattern to the structured pattern? I guess this must be the question which must be haunting you right now after knowing about the pros and cons of structured and unstructured mind. So it's quite simple. Well, I believe in presenting things in a very simplistic way, simple manner. So I have got the formula of 3R to give you. 3Rs. First R refers to realize. Realize the importance of having mind management. Realize the damage which unstructured mind is causing you in various areas of your life. It could be your relationships, it could be your academic life, it could be your professional life, it could be your personal life. You have to realize that how you are facing the damages, or how you are incurring the loss. So first is realize where it is causing the damage and to what extent it is causing the damage. And this will bring in that healthy fear in us, healthy concern in us, so that we'll be alert and we will have that awareness in us before we get into any kind of unproductive activity. So awareness is the first thing, and that comes only when we realize how it is causing a damage to our life. So first R refers to realize, and second R refers to replacement. What do you have to replace? Many times when I ask people, how do you deal with your bad habits? They generally say that I try my best not to do it. Okay, fine. Some people say, okay, I try to get myself busy. Well, it's good to say, well, it's good to answer and understand this theoretically. But when we look in our real life, when we are in an environment and that environment is such that it is forcing us, there is a push from mind and body system to go ahead and do that activity in spite of knowing it is not good for us, there comes inner strength into picture. And if you don't have that inner strength, you will fall prey to people's advices, people's wrong advices, negative environment, and those negative thoughts which are always there in the background of all of our mind. So we have to replace negative with positive. The process of sublimation has to happen if at all you are looking for positive transformation in your life. It cannot be zero. Many a times people say, can I make all my negative thoughts zero? It's not possible. It is impossible. And also people go out practicing something called as Shunya meditation. Well, recently I was talking with some youngsters. They were saying that we are trying to make our thoughts zero, negative thoughts zero. We want to be thoughtless. Well, it's not possible. Why? Because mind is basically a storehouse of thoughts, emotions, and feelings. It could be our conscious mind or it could be subconscious mind. You should all know that it has got that cluster, or it has got that storage of all that we have experienced in the past. So it is the storehouse of thoughts, emotions, and feelings. We cannot become thoughtless. Definitely there will be thoughts. Now it's up to us to choose positive or negative. And if you don't consciously choose positive, definitely mind will choose negative. And when you keep mind in an autopilot mode like that, definitely you are going to invite a lot of trouble in your life. I hope I'm not scaring you, but I'm just telling you the repercussions of leading a life in which you put your mind in an autopilot mode. That's something which is not healthy for your career and upcoming future. So second is replacement. Third is reinforce. I would say positive reinforcement. Some of you might say this, is it a very long process? Because in this era where we love fast food, we watch T20 cricket, and I guess now it's T10 cricket as well. We want everything quick. We want food to be delivered in just 10 to 15 minutes. We want everything so fast and quick. So definitely we want a process which can give us result immediately. But let me tell you, here is where you require patience. And if you're persistent, if you're consistent about practicing mind management techniques, which I'm going to give you at the fag end of this particular discussion, you will find definitely you will find that gradual development or gradual progress. does take time and it requires patience. It's not something is going to happen overnight. Okay, you listen to this discussion and next promising that. Let us be practical, let us be real in our life. It does take a lot of practice. But let me tell you, there are n number of benefits when you lead a disciplined life. When you first discipline your mind, behavior patterns, in terms of giving a particular response in a particular situation. Because at all variables, I hope you all remember this school or high school. There are constants which don't change. You can't change. You can others. Constants, something which is out of your control, out of your jurisdiction, and certain things which are there within your control, always will be there within your control. So those things you can work upon by Mother Nature for various reasons. And we are trying our best through lockdown, through containing ourselves to a particular place, but we still see that everyone is getting infected or everyone is facing the repercussions. Yes, that's something out of our control. Natural disaster is out of our control. We cannot control it, right? It's not within our thought process, the way we respond to people, the way we deal with people, our behavior patterns are very much in our control. So I'm talking about these things. I'm talking about things which can be changed, because there is no point in talking about things which we cannot change, because they're completely but stick on to the process, because this process which I'm going to give you has worked, has done wonders in people's life. We have presented this particular subject matter to more than 73,000 students in last few years, and believe me, all those who have subscribed to these process of mind management have come up to us with only positive feedbacks. Those of them who tried, yes, they got the results to whatever extent they tried. If they have practiced it for 60%, they got accordingly the results of it. If somebody has done 100%, then they have got 100% of good response. So remember these three things: realize, replace, and reinforce. Now, at this point of the time, I would like to ask a simple question to all of you. And it requires a kind of self-assessment over here to answer this. Well, I would like to ask you to take 15 seconds of your time and assess your mind and tell me, what is the dominant nature of your mind? Is it friend or is it enemy? I don't think I have to explain or brief you who is enemy and who is friend, right? So, yeah, chat section is open for you. You can let me know dominantly what is the nature of your mind. Does it act most of the times as friend? If yes, then you can type F in the chat section and let me know. If you think no, most of the times it goes crazy and it doesn't allow me to do the task which I should be ideally doing, then type E and send it to me. As I told you, take some time to assess yourself. Take some time to assess the nature of your mind. Definitely, we will come across an answer which says that it's both. Sometimes it's enemy and sometimes it's friend. But I'm talking about a predominant nature of your mind. Most of the times, if I have to ask you in last 24 hours, okay, let us narrow down it to last 24 hours. In last 24 hours, do you think your mind was friendly to you? It did all that you asked it? Or is it that you happen to live a life in an autopilot mode and mind was dictating you and you happen to follow the dictation? So now we are talking about last 24 hours. Was it friendly or was it inimical? Some of you must be thinking, should I really answer this? Yes, definitely. That must be a thought which might be there in your mind, but believe me, as I told you, you will get maximum out of today's discussion only when you participate or when you do proactive participation. Okay, Pavitra says 50%, 50-50. All right. Fine. Thank you for your responses. Okay. So here I have another simple question for you. I hope all of you have used knife, sharpened knife, right? If not used, you must have seen or you must know about it. If I have to ask you, is it an absolutely good object or absolutely bad object? How many of you say it's absolutely good object? Sharpened knife is an absolutely good object. Type G and send it to me. If you say no, it's not an absolute good object, it's absolutely a bad object. Type B and send it to me in the chat section. So I would like to know your views on it. Miss Swarna says G, Miss Bindushri says G, Pavitra G, okay. If you feel, oh, it's bad, then type B. If you say, no, it's absolutely good, type G. Okay, you have another 20 seconds to do it. So please voice out your opinion. Please do let me know in the chat section, what do you feel about this? Okay, Bhuvana says both the ways, all right. Pragati says sometimes both, okay. Okay, Mr. Pramod says G, all right, good. Amulya says depends on situations, right. Last 5 seconds. Okay, thank you so much for your responses. Some of you said that both ways, some of you said depends on situation. How many of you believe it depends on the person who is using it? I think I'm making your job easy now. How many of you say yes? Yes, it does depend upon the person who is using it. It is said that a sharpened knife in the hands of an expert physician or expert surgeon can help him in saving somebody's life. On the other end, on the contrary, if a sharpened knife is there in the hands of a criminal, a wicked mind, it can help him to take somebody's life. It can help him to take away somebody's life. So look at this. One object, two mentalities, two different outcomes. Now you might be asking me, why are we discussing about sharpened knife? Is it a cooking class? No, definitely it's not. But it has so much of correlation with our mind. Yes, our mind acts in the same way. It's like that sharpened mind through which you can do good activity or you can end up in a disastrous or in a devastating situation. If you know the art of mind management, you can do wonders in your life, believe me. And on the other end, if you do not know the art of mind management, then there will be blunders. So wonders or blunders, we have these two options. It's up to us to choose. So in this regard, I would like to appreciate all of you that you all are here with me for discussing these mind management principles. So next up, I would like to tell you about two mental modes, which all of us need to be aware of. Two mental modes. What are these mental modes? These are the ones which are subtly working in our mind in the background. Some of us are conscious of it, some of us are not conscious of it. So let us have a small discussion on this. So the two mental modes which I'm talking about are, first, number one, mind amplification mode. Or in other terms, in psychological terms, it's also called a spotlight effect. Well, let us not get into psychology and try to define it in a technical to explain this. So more than saying a beautiful example, I would say a very tragic example, which has got, just a minute, let me just cancel these dialog boxes here. Okay, sorry for the interruption. So as I was telling you, I have a very relevant, rather than saying beautiful example, I would like to say a relevant example with respect to this mind amplification. Well, I'm not sure if you had come across this news wherein it was mentioned that there was this guy who was COVID-19. He was infected with coronavirus and he was in ICU. And the nurse who was treating this guy happens to make a statement in front of him. You know, what did she say to him? She said, "Aap to bas kuch hi dino ke mehman hain." For those of you who didn't get it in Hindi, I would like to translate. It means start counting your days. You're not going to be here for long. Can you just imagine? When I'm making this statement, when you are hearing this, it's not making a much impact on our psychology or our because we are healthy, we are in a mind of that person who heard it. Yes. Now, I hope all of you are able to relate with me that what must have happened to that guy who heard that statement from nurse. And you will be very surprised to know what happened to that person. Forget about number of days. This guy passed away next day morning itself. Well, this is the level of devastation which this amplification mode can create in your life. If we allow unnecessary hype, or if we do unnecessary amplification of the things in our life, yes, we can lead, or we can end up in a very disastrous condition, disastrous situation. So never ever allow your mind to amplify things unnecessarily. Hear from authentic sources, believe bona fide sources, and only then you conclude. The moment you hear something at the first instance, you should know that it could be just partial knowledge or partial information. Because human beings are limited in their ways of perceiving knowledge. Human beings are limited in their perceptions. So definitely there is always a scope of getting more information from different sources. So never ever go about concluding anything at first instance. You never know, there will be so many unexplored areas which you might find when you endeavor and try to find out what is the truth. Now, this generally happens because we don't lead a conscious life. You know, we mostly keep our mind in an autopilot mode, and mind does all those kind of nefarious activities of amplifying things. That's one of the reason why sometimes simple tasks become too difficult. Few small things appears to be like a mountain, very difficult to cross and very difficult to manage. Does happen with all of us. How many of you face the situation that although the task is very simple, it could be academic task or it could be any small task given to you by your parents in your home, sometimes it appears to be too difficult and seems to be impossible. How many of you come across this kind of situation or scenario in your life? Yes, as I can see in the chat section, most of you are saying yes. Definitely, we all come across such kind of scenarios or experiences. So what do we do about it? Yes, we need to have a filtration when we are hearing things. Although there are so many sources of information, we should stick on to the bona fide sources of information and just stick on to them. And always have validation. Always validate what you hear. Many times people go about disturbing the relationship or making their life complicated just by hearing something from third person about second person. Well, listening to third person is not wrong, but why don't we validate it with second person before even we conclude anything about him or her? Well, this can bring in a lot of trouble in your relationship if you don't have conscious hearing, if you don't put filters to what you hear. So this is about mind amplification mode, wherein we go about making small things quite big and unnecessary. That's something unnecessary. Next is pasting mode, mind pasting mode. Now, some of you might be saying, what's this pasting mode? No, sounds interesting, right? Sounds a little weird as well. So rather than again explaining it in a technical way, I would like to give you a real life example of my friend, one of my friend who's a bodybuilder, has got biceps, triceps, and those six packs, a very muscular body which every male aspires to have. And he is also owner of gym, and he personally is a bodybuilder. Now, this guy, whenever he falls sick, he tries his best to get cured or get treated by medicine, syrup, you know, in those ways. And by chance, if he happens to hear about injection, what happens to him? He goes damn crazy. He loses his calm, he loses his composure, he starts sweating hard, and he loses his balance. Well, outwardly, if you look at him, he's so muscular, so strong. But the moment he hears about injection, he just goes crazy. Now, what's happening to him? Why does it happen in that way in his life or to him? For this, we have to know about his past. And I'll tell you what happened with him right from his childhood. Just like any other parents who are quite concerned about their children and who want them to eat nicely and do their homework, even this guy's father, my friend's father, would scare him in his childhood by saying that if you don't do your homework, if you don't eat properly, you know what, we are going to take you to doctor, and doctor has a big injection. So by saying this, they would scare him and get the things done. Over a period of time, it so happened he developed a phobia. He developed fear of injections. Now, forget about having injection. The moment he hears about this word injection, he loses his balance. He starts sweating hard, he starts shivering. This is happening to him because his mind has undergone this pasting mode or has done something called as pasting of a particular value to an object, a person, or an experience. Okay, in this regard, in this example, the value which is being pasted by my friend to this object called injection is injection equal to one of the most painful things on this planet. And he is not able to digest that, and he is not able to withhold that situation. So unnecessarily, we shall not get into any kind of pasting things or any kind of pasting values. Always give the value which a particular object, person, or an experience or an instance deserves. And as I said, for all these things, you are required to be aware. That mental awareness should be there in all of us so that we know pretty well what is our mind doing. Many a times we don't even get into our mind and see what's going wrong with it. We just lead our life in an autopilot mode, as I've been telling you. It's so dangerous. And people realize this when they are in their late 50s, late 60s, when they discover that they have ended up living a life which they never desired. Well, you can't do anything about it now. Life is not like a computer system where you just press Control Z and undo things. No, it doesn't happen in real life. It happens only on computer system. Now you are at such an age wherein you can choose to do wonders, as I said, or mind will dictate you, and when you go about following the dictation of mind, it just takes you nowhere. So please be conscious. Mental awareness is so important in order to lead a successful life, and also to get out of this mental mode called as pasting technique, wherein mind unnecessarily pastes certain value to a particular object, experience, or a person, as I said. And yeah, moving ahead, I would like to also discuss with you one more example. And this example is of an elephant. Some of you must have seen that those baby elephants are captured, their legs are tied, and it is fixed with another rigid object. So what happens to the baby elephant? It wants to enjoy the freedom. So it tries its best to free itself. And we all know baby elephant won't be able to free itself. It ends up hurting or has a bleeding over there. And as in when it grows, when it grows as an adult, when it over there. Conditioned now. So I want all of you to see if you have got conditioned by some habits or by some negative actions in your life. If you have got conditioned in one or the other way, you need to free yourself. You need to realize the importance of leading a life which you desire for yourself, leading a life of your choice, I would say. So get away from these two modes, that is mental mode and pasting mode. And mind has got this typical characteristic. What is that characteristic? Acceptance and rejection. What do we accept? Yes, all of us would like to accept or embrace happiness, comfort, pleasure. But on the other end, we simultaneously try our best to avoid any kind of painful experiences or any kind of suffering. So I would like to bring it to your notice about this characteristic of mind, which might fool us many a times. Mind as an individual doesn't know the value of the pleasure. Let me repeat it again. Mind as an individual doesn't discriminate whether it is a good pleasure or it is a bad pleasure. All that it looks for is instant pleasure. But it is intelligence, through intelligence, an ability to decide in an individual, the intelligence we can discriminate what is good, what is not good, what is more valuable, what is less valuable. I'll give you a very crude example to understand this. Just like getting up early in the morning, we all know that going for a jog, doing yogasana, going to gym, it's a very good habit. It's something very healthy for every one of us. But the moment we open our eyes in the morning, we have two challenges. We have two options. And we have a big challenge to go for one or number two. Number one says, sleep for 5 more minutes. Nothing is going to happen. No problem. Go for 5 more minutes of sleep. And we snooze alarms. Or nowadays people have the habit of keeping some 12 alarms throughout an hour, right? After every 5 minutes or after every 10 minutes. So people go about snoozing and people go about unconsciously obeying the orders of their uncontrolled mind. On the other end, you can take a conscious choice. You can utilize your intelligence, exercise your intelligence there and say, no, this 5 minutes of sleep is not going to add any value to my life. Why should I do that? Okay, let me get up and go for a jog with my brother, sister, or go for a walk with father, or do yoga. Now, this is something which can happen if we have that inner strength. We will be able to exercise our intelligence and choose what is right for us, what is relevant for us, what is important for us, only when we have that inner strength. And in order to have that inner strength, people take up to different process, different types of methods. So I have got 3 methods of mind management to share with you. So just give me a couple of seconds so that I can share my screen and tell you about the 3 types of mental methods which people adopt to. And we will also see which is the highest method which can help us. So number 1, it's physical method. And most of you might be doing these things like yogasanas already, like practicing pranayama, especially the Bhramari pranayama, which is considered as very important for having anger management, control over thought process, and also Bhramari pranayama is said to relieve an individual from all sorts of stress and pressure, unnecessary pressure which we take up, and kriyas, the purificatory techniques, and also the sitting posture. So these are some of the physical methods of controlling mind. And it's always good to start our day with this. But as we know, as the day progresses, we meet different people, or we have to deal with different topics, different subject matters. And that's where our consciousness changes. The nature of thoughts, they change. So definitely there we require the practice of mental methods, like trying our best to concentrate on one thing at a time, they say. Although some people have a theory of multitasking, human beings are multitasking entities. But when you're doing 2 or 3 things at a time, definitely you are dividing your attention. And with a limited amount of attention, you only get limited amount of outcome. So it is highly recommended that stick on to one thing. So concentration, affirmations and self-talk, or I would say self-introspection. Writing a diary, writing down your experiences really makes a lot of change, or really brings in that change which you are looking for. Because when you're putting down your thoughts, when you're putting down your experience on paper, now that particular practice makes you more and more aware about your thinking patterns and your behavior patterns. And that awareness will also help you to give appropriate response in a provoking situation. When everything is favorable, definitely we are all happy and we give the experience, we give the response which we want. But whenever things are provoking, we either end up bursting out unnecessarily on others, or we end up making a wrong statement. So this is something which happens when we don't practice that mental awareness. So self-talk or self-introspection can really help positive thinking and change of mental attitudes. And also knowledge and wisdom is very important. It's very important to know the philosophy behind mind management. It's not just the practice. Even the knowledge behind that practice is very essential so that our practices don't become a meaningless ritual. So people go about reading self-help books. Sometimes they watch motivational videos. Well, there is nothing wrong with it. But there is so much going wrong with us when it comes to holding on to that inspiration or motivation. All of us get inspired, all of us get motivated, but all of us have got a common challenge of sticking on to that motivation. I remember in my high school days when we were told by our mentors or teachers to make a timetable and follow it. Well, we all drafted beautiful timetable for ourselves, minute to minute, minute to minute. Absolutely, there is no gap anywhere. And some of us were able to follow. Personally, I was able to follow for about 11 days, to be frank. And some of my friends, they followed it for 1 month. And as the days passed by, as the months passed by, everyone got back to square one. Everyone started taking that timetable or that particular schedule so casually, they were not serious about it. Why? Because the motivation in us got exhausted. There was no more motivation. We were no more inspired to follow that. Well, this is one such thing we all have to be aware of. That how do we maintain, how do we guard that motivation so that it doesn't get exhausted or it doesn't get depleted over a period of time. And for that, we require a strong process. We require a strong method of mind management. And that is, Vedic scripture says it's a spiritual method. And one of the spiritual methods which are mentioned in Vedic scripture is mantra yoga. Yes. You might have heard about Hatha Yoga, you might have heard about Ashtanga Yoga, you might have heard about Vinyasa Yoga, and yes, as I told you, Ashtanga Yoga. So these are different types of yogas we come across the moment we try to know which one to practice. And we certainly get confused. And we go about following what is feasible for us or what is easy for us or what is available for us at that point of time. But here is a yoga system which can really do wonders for you, and it has done wonders in the past. So yoga is the word which has come from Sanskrit root word called yuj, which means to link or to connect. And here mantra is a tool which helps you to spiritualize yourself. It helps you to uplift your consciousness from present level to the next level. Yes, we can't be getting stuck. All that we have to do is to shift ourselves from lower consciousness to the higher consciousness, negative emotions, negative feelings to the positive feelings and positive emotions. And that is quite possible through mantra yoga. And now you might be asking this question to me, or you might have this question for me, that which mantra? Or basically what do Vedic scriptures say in this regard? So Vedic scriptures are recommending us the process of chanting holy names of the Lord. Holy names. Why? Because they are spiritual in nature. They are not ordinary sound. One of the mantra which is recommended is Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, which is Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. As I told you, in principle, we are required to chant holy names of the Lord, which are spiritual in nature. Now, some of you might ask me, sir, is it required for me or is it mandatory for me? What if I'm from a different faith system? Yes, even if you are from a different faith system, if you are from Islam, if you look at Holy Quran, you will find verses telling about chanting of the holy names of the Lord. If you look into Holy Bible, you will find there is a glorification of Supreme Lord. And even if you will find in the verses of Guru Granth Sahib in Sikhism, that there is a lot of importance or emphasis which has been given to chanting of these spiritual names, because they elevate or they take your consciousness, they uplift your consciousness. That is the beauty of this process. Now, I want to know how many of you practically want to experience this? How many of you want to, after hearing about all these things? Definitely we have knowledge. Next is action. And what differentiates a successful person from unsuccessful individual is the gap between knowledge and action. Knowledge and action. Now you're all aware about these principles. Now I want to see, or I want to know how many of you really want to implement it in your life and see the changes or observe the changes. How many of you? Say yes in the chat section if you want to know. Well, I want to know how many of you are desperate to implement these things, because we have a support system. Yes, we have a support system to help you. For all the aspiring students, we have a support system to help you to practice this mantra yoga. And not just that, also to help you in controlling or bringing in that positive transformation in core areas of your life. It could be your relationship, it could be your health, it could be your academics, it could be your professional life. So how many of you type yes and send it to me? I would like to know from all of you. Type yes. Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much for your responses. So as I told you, mantra is a tool which helps us deliver oneself from all sorts of distraction. Even science believes to this fact through physioacoustic therapy by saying that it helps in reducing anxiety, controlling depression, and curing insomnia. So we all have got two options. As I told you, we all are aware about the pros and cons. Now it's time for us to take actions. And all of us at this point of the time have got two options. One is just to go through, and it doesn't require any effort to go through the situation, because by default, that is the option you have got. Just like many youngsters, they're just going through the situation, waiting for coronavirus to calm down and let the cases be zero. Then we'll get started. Yes, I don't have any problem, or I don't blame any such individuals who have this, but I'm recommending you, being the students of this prestigious institute called Seshadripuram Institute of Management Studies, I want all of you to be in this category of not go through, but grow through. Because this grow through mentality can take you to a whole new level. It can do wonders in your life. And this grow through mentality or this growth mindset is something we teach in our flagship workshop, in our support system, which I was talking about. And I was very inspired. I'm quite inspired to know that many of you said that you would like to be a part of the support system wherein you get to practice mantra yoga and also explore various core areas of your life. So in this regard, we would like to help you, support you, advise you, and also provide you right guidance through yoga for happiness. And what is it all about? It's all about your happiness. And here in this, you will find that the workshop sessions are based on the timeless wisdom of Bhagavad Gita, which is one of the most, as all of you are students of management in the talk, but what about self-management? I have led. Sorry, I guess there is some. Okay, sorry for that interruption. So as I was telling you, that self-management principles are so important because they are key to principles. We need to know the art of managing our ego, dealing with different egos of the people, emotions, and also desires. So self-management is must for every individual who's aspiring for a big success or big goal in their life. And yoga, now when I say yoga, it's not only for body and mind, but it's also for soul. So we are going to teach you 3 levels of yoga: yoga for body, mind, and something which is not known to many people, that is yoga for soul. Moving on to the third aspect, relationships. So relationships are the foundation of happiness. No wonder why Socrates said that human beings are social animals. They love to share thoughts, emotions, feelings, their ideas, and they go about living together. So in this regard, it is very important to know how do we enhance the quality of our existing relationships, because relationships after a point of time starts becoming boring. So how do we bring in that magic? How do we bring in those colors, beautiful colors in our relationship?